Guts, I miss you. Welcome back to Berserk. Oh, wait. Welcome back to Berserk, everybody. And we will be continuing the Conviction arc today with Conviction arc, Birthing Ceremony, Chapter Collapse. And hey, order in the court. I know it's been a minute since we've been touching on Berserk and dibbling our little fingers into this world. I know it's frustrating, but I had to finish Chainsaw Man, and I think I picked up too many manga series at once, and that's why things have been a bit too spaced out. So until I finish with either Berserk or Vinland Saga, we're gonna focus on these two, and then run another poll to see which manga series gets dissected. But getting on into the story, we are picking up in the middle of Calamity as we see Luca is with Skelly Boy, or she calls him Death, let's be honest, Skelly Boy, way better name. And what looks like gargantuan worms made up of souls and corpses emerge from the ground. Looks very Dune sandwormy to me, like these are sandworms from Doom if you Halloweenified them. Hey, season appropriate, my favorite holiday. After Luca observes they look like the monsters from the tower, Skelly Boy responds,
"It's the embodiment of the malice that permeates this place. It resonates with the one in the tower. But even if the branded are gathered in one place, for it to take such a pronounced form without the gate opening, the time is ripe."
And he then takes Luca and gallops on out of there, saving her and himself, with the warning,
"When I see this many signs manifesting, perhaps throughout this entire holy ground, it's already beginning."
And we see the knights that oversee this refugee camp are suddenly blasted with supernatural forces, smaller continuations of those gargantuan dune worm-like monsters spilling over their hordes. "All hands, evacuate! Get away from the tower!" As massive amounts of damage start to be done to its structure. Cutting to Guts and his party, we see they're struggling to stay alive as the tower is shattering around them. And Mosgus himself, I almost called him Magnus because I've been watching far too much chess recently. Not Magnus, soars above the collapsing tower, Puck and the child still on his shoulders. The refugee camp notices the collapsing of the tower, which now resembles the hand from, the eclipse. Ooh, references. And we see among the camp dwellers, some of them begin transforming, resembling the same thing that happened to the heretics before. Monstrous men in that kind of uncanny valley, almost human but not, so it's like the most creepy vibe, and they begin feasting on each other. And there is a panel here I'll show in the uncensored version, but not the censored, where there's a child being eaten. I definitely cannot show that in the censored version uncensored on Patreon. Wow, that was maybe the goriest thing Berserk has done so far. Gore is subjective, I guess, but for me personally, that's the one that's disturbed me the most. Cutting up to Guts, he looks down at the camp in chaos, seeing the same sigil that is branded into his flesh has now begun to burn itself into the refugee camp below him. Talk about effective imagery, my god! The people begin fleeing the tower under the direction of the army. "Everyone get as far away from the tower as you can! Those with free hands, help the wounded!" And I do need to give them some credit. As awful as these knights clearly are, like seriously, them, they're doing their best to help, and I can appreciate that. And they have the courage to actually try and rally and put together some form of fight against this monstrous wave, quickly seeing that fire is the only deterrent from its direct wavy attack. Tide of death. It's just like Mosgus descends with Casca in his hands. The knights observe, "That's Mosgus! They're angels!" "Lambs of God, nothing is to fear," Mosgus intones. "Whatever supernatural act those of heresy may commit, if your faith be without one blot, God shall surely smite the power of evil and show to us a miracle. See this form of mine. This is the manifestation of God's power, wings with which to sweep away wickedness. And they all begin praying to him before Mosgus says, "We shall now burn this witch, the ringleader of the heresy running amok in the holy place, at the stake. We shall put an end to these abominable monstrosities." Guts is gonna take problem with that guy, and I'm just gonna let you know, it's not gonna go well for you. I'm going to put my entire life savings on Guts coming out on top because he's f***ing Guts, and you're just a guy with a stone face. Oh, damn it, now Buster Keaton is my casting for Mosgus. For those of you who don't know, Buster Keaton, who is one of the most impressive stunt performers of all time, was called Old Stoneface. Boom! Hollywood knowledge dropped out of nowhere. What's up? And they begin erecting a pyre while the fire holds off this deadly wave to burn Casca at the stake. And the commander is ordering the knights to protect the people while they obey this command from Mosgus. And so it's like, I don't like that you're obeying Mosgus, but I give you guys some credit for protecting the people, but I fucking hate these people, because as you see, they're like grabbing Casca and forcing her to be burned at the stake. So it's like, I hate everyone here, but I respect the bravery, but you all suck. Guts begins getting lifted from the ground as the form of the hand in the shadow solidifies, resembling the members of the God Hand. This, of course, sends Guts into a fury. He unleashes attacks, but realizes there's nothing really happening, and these are but shadows of the real thing. And Guts snaps out of his hatred, screaming to himself, "Move!" cutting his way towards her. The same as that time, with the same outcome. Again, I can't save her! As he's caught up fighting the shadow, unable to make his way towards Casca. We cut back to Luca and Skelly Boy.
Girl, if you value your life, approach not that tower. Distance yourself from here without delay.
And we see Luca kind of like lightheartedly dismisses this and is like, "Sorry, I gotta go help the people I care about." And Luca, you are too good for this world. I haven't read far enough to know if you make it out alive or not, but I really appreciate you. Much love, Luca. She even runs away. "Appreciate all the help, Death. Thanks. Bye now." This woman is amazing. Luca better be in everyone's like top 10 to 20 Berserk characters. Oh, there's waves of death and I just found out all this horrific stuff exists. I gotta go help the people I care about. End of story. I want you in my friend group.
With that much horror before her eyes, to cast herself back into the middle of it without even a hint of wishing to rely on my power. No, it didn't even cross her mind. Ignorant foolhardiness, or else. But then, if my assistance was solicited now, I would be unable to comply. All moves as if parallel to that time.
And he begins drawing his sword, looking over his shoulder, seeing Nosferatu's Zodd! Yeah! I get excited when Nosferatu Zodd shows up. He's just the best.
Unfortunately, there's no way for man to change the course of this festival. We already subsist within the current of causality.
Current of causality has become one of my most dreaded 3 words in fiction at this point. Also, referring to this as a festival. Can I get some caramel corn? But from here we cut back to the little behelit-looking creature as it skitters along the ruins of the tower. "A little more. In a scant time, that will be the time when, at least at the end, I will watch from the summit as my world perishes. Maybe, if like those torturers, I had met that priest somewhere along the line, would my life have been other than it is now? Would I have been called one of them and become somebody? But no. No, rather my life existed for the purpose of looking down from that summit of solitude. I sense that now. Enough. Let it end." And then we see it finds Casca and Guts' baby among the rubble and says, "This baby saved that witch many times. This is a body of flesh, but it's no ordinary human. It's dying, its power spent. You're the same as me then." It picks it up, misshapen babe, and consumes the child. "Let us die together. At least you can dream in your cradle of the new world inside of me." I have a lot of questions. But we're continuing on to Conviction Arc, Birthing Ceremony, Chapter Leaping Fish. But we cut to Puck and Isidoro atop the ruins of the tower, looking back at the pyre being built to burn Casca. Obviously, they're trying to think of a way to delay what's about to happen, and they witness the rest of their party climbing from the ruins, including Lady Fernice and Serpico, which I had some people tell me if I wanted to say his name right, I just needed to say it more Italian. So I'm going to say it in my best Chris Pratt impression, because why wouldn't I go with who Nintendo entrusted Mario to? So, Serpico, that's my Chris Pratt impression. Thank you, everyone. Isidoro calls to them, "Hey, buddy! Man, have you got good timing?" "Huh? Who is that kid anyway?" "Huh? I can't hear you anyway! Get over here and give me a hand!" Looks like I should investigate, Commander, and they all meet up. We witness down below, Casca envisions nothing before her but a sea of fire and death as the crowd gathers to burn her. Mosgus commands from the sky, "Now make haste, the flame! Let the fire purify!" Guts is continuing to cut his way towards Casca, desperate to reach her. But from above, we see Isidoro is put together a pulley system with the help he had and descends down with a sword drawn, grabs Casca from the pyre, and his party hauls him up to safety while he grabs Casca. I'm not entirely sure how that just happened so smoothly, but I kind of love it. And here is where quite a bit of humor starts being injected into this section of Berserk. And at first I was like, whoa, tonally, what is happening here? I'm not necessarily, but it really started to land. This is a kind of funny conclusion to an extremely dark section of Berserk, which is saying something. We just saw a child get eaten, and the fact that a lot of the humor is like super solid really surprised me. We'll talk about that in a minute. But kicking off the humor right away, we see Mosgus scream from above, "Thou shalt not!" And they say, "Incoming!" running away as Mosgus swoops down. He tries to reach for Casca, but Guts bursts from the ocean of dead souls, thinking, maybe you aren't a shadow on the water, but instead a fish that breaches the water's surface. Stating how Mosgus is an enemy he can actually fight rather than just the shadows of the godhead he was seeing before. Now he's focusing on something he could really take his anger out on. And the crowd below witnesses some black thing take down the angel, which, like, guys, you're on the wrong side. Don't look at stuff and just go, well, by color, that's lighter, that's darker, so I'm gonna go on the lighter thing side. Are you that dumb? I know they're like medieval peasants and they don't have great critical thinking skills, but if someone is screaming for you to burn someone alive and another group is taking that person away, by modern standards obviously, I think we all know which side we ended up on, right? We see Guts is standing atop Father Mosgus after landing an absolutely devastating blow. In an instant though, he caught a glimpse of that Behelit creature ingesting his baby and he says, "What was, for an instant, I caught a glimpse, what was that?" He looks above though, back up at the god hand that is formed in the tower, in his eye catching one of the winged torturers coming down again trying to grab Casca, but Isidoro pulls her to safety, screaming there's no way they'll get their hands on her again while flipping them off. Isidoro, sometimes a middle finger serves a good purpose. The party begins defending Casca from the torturers as Guts takes on Mosgus in his final form. And this is actually a massive compliment to Berserk, because this is the first time creature design in the series hasn't really worked for me. Mosgus turns into this giant stone angel thing, and compliment to Berserk, it is the first time I've seen creature design in Berserk and gone, not necessarily for me. He looks a little bit too much like a late generation Pokemon. He stands though saying, "Fool who fears not the Lord, swift is heaven's vengeance. In the name of heaven I shall deliver punishment unto thee." The crowd below witnesses Mosgus standing, and Lady Fernice kind of starts thinking, Father Mosgus, that form, angelic? No, it's bestial. And I'm like, yeah, Lady Fernice, you're starting to catch on. Good on ya. I'm proud of you. You still diddle that skittle while thinking of people burning alive, so I'm not on your side at all, but I'm proud of the growth I'm seeing. And for those of you who missed a previous episode, yes, Lady Fernice did do that. And no kink shaming from me, but if you get off on the idea of burning people alive, maybe a little bit of shame. And Mosgus holds up a book he apparently had, like a lot of soldiers do, with like bullets being stopped by Bibles, and he holds up a book that's been stabbed clean through by Guts' blade and starts saying how like God saved him with the book. But even the party observes, and this is really funny, like that didn't stop Guts' sword, you just survived the attack because you're not human anymore and you're like this bestial creature, but him crediting it to the Bible is just like really funny. It's okay, guys, you don't have to worry about this massive sucking chest wound. The blade was stopped by this paper. Father Mosgus is crying blood at this point, and him and Guts begin attacking, but Guts' sword is not necessarily strong enough to breach this new stone form, so of course, he's gotta get a bit tricksy, and Guts is surprisingly good at getting tricksy. We see the knights below are struggling to maintain their ground, and Father Mosgus starts screaming out his attacks like he's a shonen protagonist? That's a shonen thing, right? Shonen's a type of manga genre where they do that more often. It's not necessarily something I've seen a whole lot in Berserk. Or maybe I have. Am I having a false memory here? I don't know. Let me reread all of Berserk real quick to check. But he screams, "God Thousand Fist Cannon!" And we see a bunch of little things punch Guts, but it doesn't take him down, so I guess they weren't that hard at punches. And he does block quite a few for his core part of his body. Then he screams, "God Breath!" And Guts' only response to all of this is, "You quit pushing your God on me! I'll shut that mouth of yours so you never preach another stupid sermon. You're definitely too hard on the outside, but how about..." And he stabs into Mosgus' mouth. "Here!" And I like that idea, Guts. Good usage of anatomy. A lot of armor, not a lot of armor in there. And Mosgus starts trying to talk around the blade, so Guts just throws a knife directly into his fucking eye. That is hilarious. And we see Nina starts losing her nerves and tries to run away, but she falls from the wall and lands through a stall. Living, because, by all logic, if you hit anything on your way down, even a stall with wood and splinters and possibly jagged things below, falls from great heights don't kill you. I recently covered this in a video. That actually doesn't bother me. I think it's a totally fine story mechanic to use. She does get a broken ankle though, but we will return to that in a bit. Because we see with their fight with the torturers coming down, finally Puck steps up, uses some of his powers to blind them, and that allows Isidoro enough time to start landing eye shots with rocks, because if you recall from last episode, Isidoro is actually Marvel's Bullseye. This is his origin story. Also, a surprising amount of eye damage happening in Conviction Arc. Blinding, blind faith. I'm sure there's something there that a smarter essay-style YouTuber can really get into. Mosgus, not Magnus, and Guts start going back and forth again, but it concludes with Guts saying, "I won't let you touch that woman ever again." And we see the dark forces are descending on the small army of refugees as Guts and Mosgus clash once again. Guts loses the upper hand, having to think of another way, as Mosgus monologues. "Can you hear them? The voices of speculation every person congregated in this place now desires as one heart salvation. They are eagerly awaiting the time of God's victory. Do you mean you care not that tens of thousands of believers shall lose their lives in exchange for one evil witch?" We see Puck is considering why the shape of the brand has formed below, thinking, there's definitely more malice swirling around this tower than is ever normal, but it's unbelievable for it to materialize in such a shape and scale in this world, which I guess must mean, so then, if the ones with the brand are gone, those monsters will vanish too. Guts responds to Mosgus' monologue, "Don't make me laugh. All they do is pray, every last one of them. When the fire's under their own ass, all any of them do is bow down. Tens of thousands of people shouldn't cling to just one man." Mosgus screams, "Prayer is faith in of itself, prayer and devotion of all to God. That is the essence of faith. Arrogant man who knoweth not prayer, repent," which is just a whole lot of nothing. And Mosgus manages to grab Guts, squeezing. "You search your soul as your body burns in the flame of purification. A miracle shall never visit an unbeliever like you." And Guts responds, "Instead of wanting some mighty miracle, I tend to jump right into action. It looks like that form of yours couldn't stop every slash. Your faith might be your armor, but on the other hand, it's where you're most vulnerable." And we see he's managed to slip an explosive into Mosgus, and then does an upward slash with his sword. The combination of the two more than enough to shatter Mosgus' form. He then lands several more blows. "If you see God, you tell him this. Leave me the hell alone." Mosgus begins monologuing as he dies. "Oh Lord God, I come now into your presence, but at least I bring your enemy with me." And he grabs onto Guts' sword. "With the last of my life's flame shall evil be consumed." I'll pass. It might be your time to meet the God you love so much, but it ain't mine. Fly your ass down to heaven. And Guts chucks Mosgus from the wall into his army of blind supporters below, crushing many. A child observing, "Mother, the angel died," as the dark wave begins feasting upon them. all of them consumed. They scream up towards the wall for our party to kill the woman, and Guts, for the first time we've seen in a long time, successfully pulls Casca in for an embrace, providing some form of comfort as Puck watches. We return back to the Behelit creature. This will all be digested. The ones who drove me away, the ones who bound me, they all will dissolve. It will vanish. Everything into my world, including myself. Can you hear it, misshapen child? The roaring lullaby of death. The tower! Take refuge in the tower! And we see the remaining refugees begin fleeing as the knights provide what protection they can. They end up closing the gates with many still trapped inside, but it does not matter. As the commander observes, what have they done? What have they done? Not again. The walls are not enough to stop what is coming. We see Nina get up with a broken ankle, and she's almost trampled by a crowd, but Luca bursts through and manages to pull her into a barrel, providing her with some safety. We see the black ooze is coming towards her, and it cuts away. The last we see of Luca up until where I read, and I'm genuinely worried about her. Luca is awesome. We see the dark wave is inside the walls, massacring all. Guts and his crew begin gathering as much fire as they can, lighting torches. Lady Farnese is in awe of Guts' motivation, feeling comforted by how decisive he is, always moving, always taking action. And we even see Puck pull up a dandelion that he wants to light on fire so he can fight. Come on, you garbage heaps, today's trash burning day. We'll just turn all this pain and anguish into pitiful ash and dachshunds with the hellish fire. Eat flame bursts, explode in fire, chestnuts. But when Isidoro asks what are these things, Puck takes on a more serious tone. The malice of those who've died of plague or torture in this place. It's absorbing the feelings of the people it's swallowed and steadily expanding. It's full of their bitterness and desire for salvation. If everyone who died bitter turned to this crap, the world would be covered like a spittoon by now. Why is this the only place where it's happening? Well, and then Puck looks at Casca. Lady Farnese thinks to herself, he's right, this kind of thing shouldn't be. It mustn't exist. It's the same as that time, like being in a nightmare. It's truly reality. And we see she is saved again by Guts. And he says, if you don't want to die, try making yourself a little useful. And she thinks, he stands without retreating in the midst of this overwhelming nightmare. The one and only thing that's certain. Guts screams, don't pray. Praying keeps us from doing anything else. What's that thing in your hands? And Lady Farnese realizes, oh yeah, I'm holding a torch. I should probably help. And she joins the fight. We cut back to Nina in a barrel, thinking how she's going to die as she's being tossed and turned in her barrel among the wave of death. We see the people below being consumed as a hand of the souls reaches into the sky, fully forming the God Hand once again. Incredible. The living dead. All the souls here are crying out in desire for one thing. And we see the Behelit creature again. Now, all in my entire world is of one thought. It desires the same thing as I. Everything crying out desires me. No, the world I bring forth. Everything will be fulfilled by one voice. Guts, look! It's this! It resonates with those voices! And he points to the Behelit in Guts' pack, and we see Guts and Casca's child within the creature begin to form into something else. Light, brimming. When the sky falls at the holy ground where the blind sheep gather and erect a pillar of fire, it will come. And we see the few survivors of the refugee camp who fled away looking down at the destruction. The skyfall ends. And that is where we will end our read-along, with so little left in 7, but I'm getting a late start to the day, and I'm sorry if I'm going to get this done for y'all for tomorrow. I really do have to wrap it up there. I am very excited to see where Berserk goes next. Do not worry, Berserk content isn't going to stop until I'm caught up and done with the series here on the channel. Occasionally there might be small breaks if I want to pick up something else and get it done, but it's never going to go away. Well, at least until I finish. But anyway, everyone, let me know what you thought of this section of the read-along. How can I improve? What did I do better? And like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to see the uncensored version, and have a good one, y'all. I got merch, I got books. Peace.